Well, hey guys, welcome to the channel. Welcome to the stream and another chapter. Chapter 3. Chapter 3. Working on that guy there. That's our John Wick 1970 Chevy Chevelle. So, let's run the intro. We'll get started. Okay guys, we're back. Going to continue on this build. Didn't really do very much last time, except put a little Bondo on the body, put some jack stands under the frame, and that's it. I'm working on a couple of things still here. I've primered, not primered, well, I guess it is. I used some Mr. Surfacer 1500 black, painted our inside of our roof there and our inside of the body. Got that done. I did actually cut open the two lines on our trunk lid so we can have that little propped open just a little bit there in my little diorama I'm doing. We'll go over, I'll show you that a little bit later. I'm working on making a couple of things to put, because like I've mentioned a couple of times now, I plan on having the roof or the hood sitting on the roof in the diorama. But you look at any body shop, anything like that, when they remove the hood and they put it on the roof, they've never just put it straight on the paint, do they? No, they don't. And why? Because they don't want to scratch the paint on the roof. Usually what they have is like a couple of 2x4s that are wrapped in like carpet or something like that. And they'll put those down, put a couple of those down on top of the roof, and then they put the hood down on top of that. So I'm making those right here. What have I done? I've taken a couple of little pieces of styrene and just a couple of strips, and I'm gluing some felt onto them. And yeah, and then I've just clamped the felt down onto it. I'll change the camera, you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, so here we are. I've got these little pieces of styrene, and it's just wrapped in some felt. That should be dry enough I can remove my clamps. So we're going to have a nice little felt surface. And so there's one of them. And this one I just clamped also, so I think I can take this off now. You can see where I got some excess felt that I can try and wrap over the edge there a little bit later and work on that. So yeah, I'm working on those. I got the underneath of the hood painted. I did take I actually took my little grinder and I ground down the edge of the hood so that it's not super thick. Like if you think about the thickness of the plastic, should not be showing here. If we're going to be trying to accurately represent the hood sitting on the roof, this should not be super thick. It should not be a super thick edge, or at least not appear so. The actual thickness of the plastic is like this. If you see my fingers, that is the actual thickness. But by tapering it to the edge, so it comes to kind of to a point, so you can kind of see the edge. You can see it here. If we get it right and the camera will stay focused, you can see the edge, how it tapers. Comes to a nice razor edge almost, so that when you're looking at it at an angle like this, the hood looks like nice and thin, like it should look. So what I wanted to get my focus on now is I want to get some primer put on this car, put on the body, and do a little few things like that. I've got my air compressor all ready to go. I just need to grab some primer, which is going to be some Mr. Surfacer 1500 gray, which it really is a primer, but I'm going to be doing it in little splotches on the car. What I did is show you this now here. I figured if they're doing all the body work and they're getting this ready for paint, they would have removed the chrome trim. In particular, around the wheel wells, they would have removed the chrome. So I had to file down and sand off those little chrome trim pieces that they had on the in the molding. Same with around, I figure around the door windows, I'll remove the chrome trim there. But for the windshield and the rear window, I'm going to leave the chrome on there just because. And I'm going to do that similarly here. This is all removed, and I removed the trim from this side also, just for continuity. And then, as you can see, I've got my trunk lid. I did not scribe all the way through on this one, so my trunk lid is still connected, but I've just kind of bent it a little bit so it's propped open, just like that, just like that. Now, how did I scribe that line? I used this tool here. It's a GSI Krios little scribing tool. I can use this. I'll show you here. It's got a very, very sharp, fine little hook on it. And it just take that and slowly scribe through the lines, and it cuts through the plastic very easily. You don't have to use a lot of pressure, and it just let the tool do the job, let it do its work. And so yeah, that was a very good little tool to use, and that made short work of my lines. So I did do a few passes through the across here, just so that it makes it a little thinner. And so the plastic is thin. If I were to work this enough, it would actually break loose, but I don't want to do that. Something I had to keep in mind is we have this big peg. That big peg there goes through this thing on the interior. So what I did is I trimmed the interior. This was just a hole. Okay, so I trimmed that out so that when we go to put our interior in, we still have, it still goes on there, but with the trunk lid propped open, it doesn't interfere with that hole. And I could actually just put another piece of styrene here and glue that, and that would permanently make the trunk lid just propped like that little amount. And I think that's kind of a cool little look that's going to be different than it normally would do. So I like that. So let's get some primer into my cup here. I got to put my needle in my airbrush. I like to leave the needle out after I've cleaned it out, because I like to let all the thinner and everything dry before leaving the needle in, because in the past I've found by leaving the needle in and the prime and all the what you call it, what do I call it? What do I call it? I call it thinner and primer and paint and stuff like that. Leaving all that in there to dry, it just is a recipe for making our needle stick to the inside of the airbrush. Okay. That's shaken up. So let's put some of this into our cup. Don't need a whole lot because I'm not primering the whole body. It's just going to be a few little spots kind of going around the edges. I'll be going around the wheel wells. I'll go along the bottom of the body here, do a few spots. You see where I've gone through right to the white plastic? A lot of those spots are going to be just, I'm going to primer those. So along here and along the fender here, all those spots, yeah, I think that's going to be a good representation of all the work that they've done on the body to get it ready for paint, get it prepped and all that stuff. So here we go. Let's just do a little test spray. There we go. All right. So I want to go light. I don't want to go heavy on it. Kind of like that. And I can go anywhere I like. I just want to spray, I don't know. I think I have to thin this out a little bit. My airbrush is having a little trouble spraying it, so I'm going to thin it out. I'm going to dump this back in here. Yeah, she's very thick. With enough PSI, yeah, this stuff does spray straight out of the jar, but I don't like having my PSI super high, so we're going to thin this out a little bit. Okay. It's definitely a lot thinner now. But I still have a little bit in my cup, so I'm just going to dump it out here. Okay, there we go. Looks like I got a little goober in there for some reason. Let's get rid of that. Okay. All right. Should not be splattering. That's better. There we go. I think that's pretty good. That's enough for the hood. We don't need to cover the thing in primer spots, just to represent where we've done some Bondo, right? The nice thing about this is it can take all kinds of artistic license and just go to town on it. think that's pretty good. Oh, that's right. There we go. I think that's pretty good. We've got a very spotty car now with lots of primer on it in spots where still, you know, where they did all the body work and they needed to fix all that up. I think I'm going to do a little on the edge of the hood here. Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so I'm going to spend the next few minutes cleaning up my airbrush, and then we'll come back, okay?
1 hour later.
Okay, so airbrush is all clean. We've got primer all over our car. There's a few things I want to clean up on this. Now that I've made it all dirty, I want to clean it. That doesn't seem to make sense. Well, one thing I want to do is I want to try and tackle doing the same effect on the hood, on the sides here, that I did here. I want to try and do that on the trunk. Because the trunk is going to be displayed, you know, a bit of a jar like this. I don't want, you know, when I take a picture of this thing, I don't want to see that the trunk looks like it's this thick of steel, like it's 1.5 inches thick of steel. I mean, who knows? Maybe John Wick did have this thing, you know, armor plated or something like that, but I doubt it. I doubt it. Anyway, let's change the camera. I want to show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so the trunk lid right now, you can really kind of see how thick that is, and I don't like that. You can see where I kind of started to trying to carve in there, but I didn't do enough. So I want to kind of pry this open a little bit like that, and I want to try and get in there with my knife and carve away a little bit at that and see if I can just reduce this a little bit here. I think I already did take quite a bit of it away, but I need to do a little bit more. What makes this a little more tricky is the fact that it's actually attached to the car, and I don't want it to detach. Not that that would be the end of the world. I mean, if I did actually just cut this through, I could actually just glue it back on later. And I just might wind up doing that. Because if I do detach it, then that makes this job a heck of a lot easier. But we'll see, we'll see. Getting this edge is the tricky part. I think I got this side to the point where I'm happy with that. When I get some black paint on there, then that edge is going to just totally disappear. I kind of like that. This edge has not been done at all. As you can see by the white plastic, that is thick. That looks really thick, and it really is unnatural. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of putting my thumb here to hold it so that it stays nice and straight. And just be careful and be mindful of your blade, and go in very carefully. Don't need to do that far back here. That's looking a lot better. I'm going to come in from the bottom here. Carve that out there. Here we go. That's better. I think that's at a point where I like that. But now what I need to do, I need to paint under here. I need to paint that black. Because looking white is really the opposite of what I'm wanting. So I'm going to use a little Tamiya LP3 flat black. This is extremely thinned down for airbrushing. Very, very thin. So this almost, for lack of a better term, this almost soaks into the plastic when I put this on. I want to just want to do the white. I don't want to do the top of the hood, top of the trunk lid. I'm just wanting to cover that white. I'm going to have to come in from the top here. I was hoping to not have to come in from the top, but I'm going to have to. I'll probably have to wipe some of this away. That. Kind of just go along this line. Like it or not, I have to do this. Because, like it or not, there is an actual side. Down into my crack. That's always a good idea. You want to get into your crack. But you want to be careful when you get in your crack. There we go. Okay. Now on this side, I actually have to get in on the car side and do the inside of the trunk here. It's got a little bit of a white line here. Go along that edge. Now, I had a friend years ago. He had a 1969 Beaumont, and his car looked pretty rough with the amount of primer and everything, primer and bodywork. But he was building it for racing, so he didn't care so much about how it looked. Wanted to make it fast before he made it look good. Okay, there's our trunk lid. Looks pretty good. All right, so what I want to do now, I want to get some Tamiya panel liner after I get my brush clean. Clean this up. Okay, I'm gonna get some Tamiya panel liner, and I want to go around the panel lines on this car. Okay, this stuff here. Panel line accent color. Super thin stuff to go in the panel lines. Some guys love it. I'd say a lot of guys love it. Some guys don't. I like it. I think it does it for what it's designed to do. I think it does a good job. Go in the corner here and let it do its job. Just kind of go in. I find once you get the bristles down into the line that you want, they work pretty good. You can actually run the brush along in the line. So I'm going to go in the door lines too. My door creases. There we go. Okay. That looks pretty good. I already went in on around the cowl induction scoop. I did that with the panel liner just to make that line pop out. Now these places where I've got this excess, it doesn't matter because we can clean that up. And it cleans up with white spirits or any kind of enamel thinner. So what I do is I take a Q-tip, dip it in there, and let that sit for a minute. I don't want the Q-tip super soaked, okay? In fact, I'll take it and kind of dry it off a little bit, like that. And we can come in and just give it a wipe and get rid of the excess. Like this. Now the fact that the car is supposed to be looking like she's in the midst of, you know, being worked on, I can use that to my advantage in making this look a little bit rough. Just wipe that away. Up here. The chrome trim doesn't matter because I'm going to do the chrome trim around the windows. But there we go. Oh, I got up here to do. Clean that out. And unfortunately, what happens when you're doing the scriber, using the scriber, and you go off your lines, the panel liner will expose those. See that right there? You can see where I went out of the track with it. But that's okay. It's not that big of a deal. It just shows this car is not ready for paint yet. But we're getting there. Okay. All right, so there is, I put the hood on. we've got our car. We've got John Wick's Chevelle getting there. She's getting there. I did manage to get the grill is ready. The grill fits in there now. I scraped away the chrome. See where I scraped away the chrome from around the headlights? So that'll give a nice position to glue that in. I did notice when I was scraping the chrome away from the inside, there was some like goo in there almost, and I don't know what it was, but there was some kind of a sticky goo in between the headlights there that obviously whatever process they use in making these chrome parts and then cleaning them up, that didn't get cleaned out and was actually a big factor in interfering with how these things fit in there. But now I've got that all fit in there. They fit in there nice. I'll be able to, when I get to that point, I'll be able to take a clamp, put the glue on there, and I can clamp them in like that. And they'll clamp down and they'll glue in nice and flush, just like this. And then we'll have that. And I did a little mock-up for how my diorama is going to go down. So let's just do that now. We'll do a little mock-up here. Put this in. Little test fitting. Test fitting never hurts. We have the chassis here. Okay. And remember, we got our little jack stands on there. Okay. They're glued down. The chassis just kind of pops down on this like this. Spread that fender out a little bit just to fit that in there. Of course, now I've got the bumper on there, so I have to do my fit. I've got to go tuck it in there a little bit. There we go. Oh, she came out. There we go. Okay. I think we're in. Yep. Okay. That's it. That's how she's going to look. Okay. Chassis is going to go in like that. The interior, she's going to sit down like this. She's got no grill. She's going to sit down like that on her jack stands. Have the trunk open just that little bit. And we're going to have the engine on its stand. You guys already seen the cherry picker. We've got the engine here. And it's just about perfect to line up like this. Ta-da! Yeah, it looks like we're getting ready to install this engine in this car. I think that is a really cool little look. Of course, we'll have our little carpet things sitting on top of the roof here like this. I gotta glue this one down obviously better. That'll go like that, and then this will go on top, and our hood will be sitting on the roof like that. And ta-da! And we have our tires sitting off to the side and our front wheels, and that'll look pretty good. Yeah. So we're getting there. We're getting there. And that's going to be a cool little diorama. This thing's sitting in the shop with, yeah. Yeah, I like it. It's definitely different, and it's outside my normal things that I do. But yeah, that's right. Yeah. So there really is not, there's, because of all this, there's not a lot to doing this kit. That's why this thing is not going to take me that much longer before I really just call it done, especially with the fact that I'm not doing any kind of special body work on it, right? I don't have a lot of, the fact that we're just doing all this primer and Bondo and stuff like that just shows you don't have to do, you want it to be cool. It doesn't have to be pretty, right? Yeah. Especially something like this where it's just going to sit in the background of a diorama. and as a just as a piece in the background. So yeah, but is there, could you put a lot more detail into it? I'm sure you could. And as far as this cross member piece here, I'm not sure how car accurate that is. If this should curve or be straight. I mean, we do have a firewall there that, although I have it here, where is my firewall? Here it is. Firewall needs a little bit of paint on it to make it more realistic and proper looking, but that's really all there is to it. So what I'm going to do is off camera, I'm going to, continue with the basically the detail painting and stuff like that to get it ready to go. I don't feel the need to add any more under hood details like wiring or anything like that. Although at the same time, usually when you're replacing the engine in a car, you have, all the hoses and wiring is all kind of laid out and set aside, hanging down, stuff like that. I might do something like that on the, on the chassis here, have wires hanging down into the engine bay, maybe some hoses or whatever, things like that. That hoses, but yet the hoses have been tied up and they're off to the side. I really don't know, because it's, like I said, it's going to be something that's in the background pictures, and so it's not really going to be part of the detail. In fact, whatever I'm photographing in the foreground is going to make this a little blurry in the background, so it's kind of not really any point in doing it. I don't want to do a whole bunch of work only to have it never seen, like guys building an airplane. They do all the detail of the actual engine of the aircraft and then put the engine in the fuselage and button it all up, and you never see that engine ever again. It's kind of like a big pointless effort. Speaking of airplane's going to be my next build. I know I've had a couple of comments on my channel. One guy asking if I could build an airplane next. Somebody asked for an F-12. I don't know what an F-12 is. It sounds like a Formula One car for some reason, but that's not an aircraft, not to my knowledge, or an F-35. I do have an F-35 in my stash. So maybe an F-35 is going to be my next one after this is all finished up. That just might be it. We'll see. Like I mentioned in the last video, I'd like to know for you guys' opinion. Do an F-35A or do something older like a P-51 Mustang or something like that. Something from World War II. Let me know in the comments down below, guys. I want to thank you for watching. I want to thank you for all the support. Please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't. Also, leave comments down below. I love to read your comments, and as you know, I respond to the comments as much as I can. So, thanks again for watching. Thanks for all the support. See you all in the next one.